here I am with Monica from Greyhounds in the Verde Valley. And as you can see, we're going to be talking about greyhounds today. One of my favorite subjects that I wish I didn't have to talk about, and that's because so many greyhounds, over 20,000, are literally killed every year, not because they're sick, simply because people don't want them anymore. Thank God for rescues. Monica, you're the rescue coordinator, adoption coordinator. How big a problem are the dogs coming off the tracks in the United States right now?
It's still a big problem. Number one, the dogs are larger dogs. If they were miniature poodles, they place miniature poodles, miniature dachshunds, the smaller breeds, much easier than we place our big dogs. Greyhounds, in their own way, are much easier because you don't have to worry about if you go somewhere, they won't bark their heads off, and the neighbors won't get annoyed at you, except for Ellie, who's not barking, who's crying.
She can talk, that's okay.
But it's because of the fact that they are big dogs, people are afraid of them. They have a preconceived idea because they're racing dogs that they are actually hyper. For the most part, they're not. For the most part, they come, once they're off the track, put on a lower energy food. They do feed them a hyper food on the track,
Sure.
hot meal, high pro, things like this to keep them hot, like the hunting dogs. And horses, they feed them a hot meal. They do that for the dogs. So once they're off the track, they calm right down. And Ellie, stop.
Another misconception about greyhounds, when you think of greyhounds, because the average greyhound can easily do, let them bark away, they can easily do 45 miles an hour, if not more. So my question to you is, with them being able to run so fast, the average person's going to say, well, you know what, I live in an apartment, how can I possibly have a greyhound? Now, having worked with greyhounds for many years on the East Coast, I can tell you that they're not marathon runners, you know?
Right,
Three times around the block and they're ready for a nap and reruns of Seinfeld. Am I correct?
Right, exactly right. 3 times around. Or even, depending on the age of your dog, if you've got an 18-month-old puppy that before, you have a 13-year-old once around the block. So we kind of have to take everything in stride. Most of the dogs that we adopt out run in the ages between 2 and 4. Sometimes
that's about when they come off the track, between 2 and 4 years old. So their career's over.
Their career's
and so,
over.
so if at 4 years old, and we know the average lifespan can be anywhere from, there's arguments going on from 11 to 13 years, let's say, that these dogs, when they come off the track at 2 years old, 3 years old, or 4 years old, if it were not for groups like Greyhounds of the Verde Valley and other rescue groups around the country, all of these dogs at 3 or 4 years, and years ago, that's what was happening.
Years ago, they would just take them out in Arizona. You'd find dumps of them where you'd find hundreds.
And they would just shoot them because that was the cheapest way.
Yeah.
So they had no care for the dogs whatsoever, other than what they were doing in there.
Right.
And if their racing career was over, just kill them.
When their racing career was over, just kill them.
Why don't you tell me a little about your 2 dogs here?
Well, actually, this is my old lady. She came off the Apache Junction track.
So she was a runner.
She was a runner. Actually, she was a very good runner. She was up until this past year when she just kind of got old. She's 13 and a half. And I really watch her very, very carefully. As you can tell, she's shaking. She's a little fragile. We'll put her in the house when we're done here.
How long did you have her?
Since she was 3 and a half.
So
she had a badly broken back leg.
Which means automatically, if they hurt themselves at the track, they kill them right away.
But the rescue group that I was working with, she was my birthday present to myself.
What a great birthday present.
She was a great birthday present. I've had her for 10 years. And she's just been the love of my life, quite truthfully.
And what about her best friend here?
Well, this one actually belongs to Judy. She's got her sister. Occasionally we get groups of sisters. Ellie was another one that didn't run very well. And she was a tiny little girl. And
Why?
Because she happens to be one of the more noisy greyhounds, she was hard to chase. But she lives with her sister on an acre of land, so she's actually pretty darn happy.
She looks like a pretty happy. You know what? All of these dogs, and we're going to show you a lot of greyhounds later, folks. And I got to tell you, the one thing that all of these greyhounds have in common, they went from a frown to a big smile. Every dog here looks really, really, really happy. Let me speak to some of your cohorts here. I appreciate it. Why don't you step in and give us your name, and let's talk about your dog for a while.
And I should say, we thank Monica. Other than myself, she's been in the group.
Yeah, you can see, you know, when you talk to someone, you can always tell with that legitimate that, you know, sometimes people lose their passion And that's the biggest problem with rescuing animals. Who's this guy? What's your name again, first of all?
My name is Janie.
Jane, you're the president, vice president.
No. But next to Monica, I've been here.
You've been here for a while. So who's this guy?
This is our third Greyhound. This is Molly.
Molly with her, notice Molly's collar. Hi, Molly.
Molly has a number of problems.
Well, before we get into Molly's problems, tell me how you wound up with Molly. Also off the tracks?
Yes. We wound up with Molly a couple years ago because she'd been passed from family to family to family, and none of the fosters wanted to keep her. It was really sad.
For any specific reason or behavioral stuff?
Behavioral
Well, you know, when
stuff,
we're
yes.
done here, we're going to sit down together and I'm going to resolve your behavioral problems.
Okay, because she does
Or
have
her
problems.
behavioral
She's
problems.
as cute as can be, but she does have problems. And one of them was that her brother died of bone cancer in December, and it's been really hard on all of us.
It's been, I'm sure, and I can see it in your eyes, and people don't realize this, and it's interesting, but when I talk on the radio show, and I talk about a dog grieving, sometimes I get emails from people say, come on, Warren, dogs don't really understand the concept of grief. And I got to tell you, when a dog like this loses a friend, whether that friend be another dog, a cat, or a human being, that dog goes through a grieving process just like we do. There's anger involved. Sometimes they stop eating. But we're going to do a whole segment on grieving in the future. So he's grieving, still grieving over the loss. She's still
yes.
grieving over that loss.
Yes, we all are.
Yeah, it's difficult to get over. But you can always, I always tell people this, when you rescue a dog, and I've literally, God knows how many dogs I've rescued in my life, when you have to say that final goodbye to them. And let me tell you a quick story. I don't think I ever told this story on the air. The oldest dog I ever adopted was a 13-and-a-half-year-old, deaf-blind, three-legged old English sheepdog. Okay, and I took her from a shelter, and everyone said to me, Warren, how can you take this dog home? You know the dog's going to be dead in a matter of days or weeks or maybe a month. And I said, you know what? All I want is when this dog does go to the Rainbow Bridge, I want the dog to know that he was loved. And that's what it's all about. And that's why I tell people, when you adopt a dog, and the dog, and it's good to cry and we lose them, but just know that that dog at that Rainbow Bridge knows that he was loved. And how many thousands or millions of dogs never have the opportunity of knowing they're loved, especially Greyhounds. And I want to get back to the Greyhounds a bit, because as we're looking, nice butt shot, by the way. Nice butt shot. By the way, when we talk about Greyhounds, and we look at all these dogs, and we say, how many thousands, and I'm talking a number of 20,000 would have been killed if it were not for people like yourselves rescuing them. What would you say the hardest part of finding a good home for a Greyhound would be?
The fact that until recently, most people hadn't ever seen, I had never saw a Greyhound until I adopted about 10 years ago. That was my first Greyhound. I had never seen one. I mean, I wouldn't go to the races for anything. But they don't know much about them, and they think they need, like you say, they can't have them if they're in an apartment, or they can't have them if they're old, but anybody can have
They're the
Greyhound.
greatest apartment dogs in the world.
Yes,
I mean,
they
you know,
are.
they
I
take them
agree.
out for a walk around Central Park in New York City. They want to sit on the couch and just watch with you. That's what they're all about. I mean, literally, I have trained probably 2,000 or 3,000 Greyhounds just in New York City, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And when I say train them, it might be a misconception, because what happens is when you get these dogs off the track, they've never seen a TV, they've never seen a mirror, they've never seen a staircase, they've had minimal socialization, if any socialization, with people at all. So they're kind of almost feral to humans when they come off. I remember having to get on my hands and knees and teach those dogs how to walk up a step, what a car is all about, what a telephone sounds like when it rings.
Patio doors.
Patio doors, they have no idea. Fire alarms, God knows. They're usually kept in cages or crates pretty much their whole life, unless they get a little large area. But the bottom line is there's no or very minimal human contact with them. And it's not only these animals that are being abused, it's also the other animals, the jackrabbits and the rabbits that are being just as abused. So you've had this one's how old now?
She is 5.
Molly.
She was 5 in July.
Hi, Molly. What a
She's
sweet
scared to death of other dogs.
But you got along great with her brother.
Oh, yes.
Let me speak to some other Greyhound people. We're going to talk to you guys. Here I am with Judy with some more Greyhounds that, thank God for people like Judy, now have a home. Otherwise, never would have. Judy, first of all, what's your involvement with Greyhounds of Verde Valley?
I joined because I started walking. And then she said, how about fostering them? Since you're a nurse and you can take care of them immediately after surgery. And that was my heart. They never left my home.
So these are all fosters.
Yes.
That's the problem with foster homes. You foster them. Now you have 3 of them. Let's introduce them. These 2 are, well, this is not a best shot, but let me see your face.
Yeah, they look just alike.
Yeah, these 2 are twin sisters,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yes.
Olsons, don't get jealous now. So these guys came off the track. How did you come by these 2?
They came off one at a time, and I got them 6 months apart.
So in other words, they were separated as sisters, and they had they been at the same track together?
Yes.
So they ran opposite each other?
There were 5 of them, and they
Really?
looked very similar.
5 in the litter.
And they all came at different times.
So now this is who?
This is Savannah, and this is Ellie.
And who is this?
This is Trey.
And this is an interloper. That's Trey. Now what about Trey's story? Where'd Trey, beautiful dog, where'd Trey come from?
Well, Trey was so large that people were afraid to take him.
Just because of his size?
Yeah, just because
It always
of his
amazes
size.
me why people are so afraid. They think that size. Let me tell you something. I've been working with animals over 30 years. You guys know I trained in Southeast Asia. I trained in Europe, pretty much every continent. And any scars on my hands have always been the little guys. And it's always been my fault. It's very rarely that the big guys get you. I think the big guys are aware of their size. By the way, for children, I'm a big fan of Greyhounds for kids. They're just
Yes.
absolutely great with
Yes.
kids because they're mellow.
Right.
They can take the abuse. They just want the attention. So you have all 3 of these dogs, all 3 off the track. Again, all 3 would have not been here had people like yourself and Greyhounds of Verde Valley not saved them. Tell me a little bit about their personalities.
They're all 3 different. All 3 different. Trey is, he takes care of his sisters. He doesn't start to eat out of his food until his sisters have come to each of their bowls. So he takes care of them. He's the one that tells me when to let them in when they've been out playing. He tells me when they want to go out.
So he's the big bro.
He is, and even when I foster other dogs, he still takes care of those dogs too.
What were some of the challenges you had as a Greyhound person? We talked earlier about the concept that when they're at the track, if they're not killed as puppies, they get very little human exposure. They're kept in a cage or a crate pretty much their whole life unless they have a little run area. They've never been exposed to TVs and telephones and mirrors and all of the things that everyday dogs would have been exposed to. Kids crying, for example, kids yelling out in the street,
And cats.
motorcycles, cats. Well, cats, you know, they were taught to chase. So but that's interesting because most Greyhound rescues, and I'm assuming you do it here too, when you adopt a Greyhound to an owner that has cats, the dog is certified at that point, as
Well,
best you can.
Because it takes a while. I'm a cat lover from way back, and a dog lover too. So you can't certify that these dogs are going to be cat friendly. It takes time, and each cat is different. Each dog is different.
But it's interesting that the majority, I remember doing a segment years ago on NBC, and so many of the people that had Greyhounds also had cats, and they were just incredibly compatible.
They are
just got
very
along super.
compatible now, but Trey wanted, I don't know, he just wanted to chase my Himalayan. He was furry. It looked very much like a little rabbit.
Well, we talked about that before, you know, we're talking about the abuse of the animals and the abuse these guys go through. And you got to understand there's 2 things or 2 ways to look at abuse. There's physical abuse where the dogs are beaten miserably. Not the case with most of these Greyhounds early on. But it's the mental abuse, the psychological abuse, the fact that they're just such sociable animals and unable to socialize is probably just as bad as any type of physical abuse, and sometimes it goes hand in hand. So again, now you've adopted all 3 of these dogs. They live with you. When you walk down the street, what do people say? What's the misconception? For example, if I came to you and I said, you know, they're great dogs, but man, you know, it's got to be a big problem owning a Greyhound. They must come with so much baggage and they must need so much exercise. What is your reaction to that?
My reaction is when a person gives a dog to a new home at 6 and 8 weeks, the dog hasn't adapted to being a dog. These dogs are absolutely adapted to being a dog and having a social life with all of their other dogs. This makes them even greater to be able to adapt to me.
So in other words,
Because they are wolves in the wild live together.
in a Greyhound suit.
Yeah, and so Greyhounds live with their peers too. I really think it makes
Well,
a
it's
much
interesting.
better dog.
It's interesting to watch the group dynamic because if you were with a group probably of any other breed, there'd be a lot more. I haven't heard one growl. I have yet to hear. Anybody hear a growl here? I haven't heard one growl since I've been here. At least not from the dogs. Hey, guy, you want to come visit? Oh, no, you're not getting my camera shot doing that. No, you're not. Anything else you want to add to the concept? I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. They're dogs. And once you start showing them life, they just fit right.
Yeah, they absolutely just take right up with it because I think they're dogs first, and I think they need to be dogs first. And I think one of the problems in getting dogs at 6 and 8 weeks is that they haven't become dogs yet. So they're confused in their role. These dogs are not confused as to what they are.
And
They are dogs.
they come in at 6 or 8 weeks into the household, and then the family just confuses them more because they have no idea what to do.
So these
whole
are
dynamic.
dogs first, and I really
Are
think
you
it
a
makes
dog?
big
Are you a
difference.
dog, huh? Well, Judy, thanks a lot for showing it. We're going to take some great shots later of all the dogs together. So, and here I am, of course, with Debbie, David, and Roscoe. He should have a D in his name. Debbie, David, and Roscoe. Now, you told me earlier that you guys have been married for 30 years, you never had a dog before, left for New York, came to Arizona, and decided, well, maybe we're going to get a dog. What made you decide on a Greyhound, and how did you hear about the problems with Greyhounds in the first place?
Well, my sister, she told me all about it, and she said, why don't you look them up on the internet? They have great temperaments, they're quiet, they don't bark, they sleep a lot, and they love to run, and I wanted a dog that I could exercise with. So he seemed to fit the bill.
And I went to ASPCA and checked out a couple of dogs, and they were all like hyper. We went to the dog park, and all these dogs were running around, and this one Greyhound came up to us and said hello to us. And he was very gentle and very nice. I said, Debbie, let's go look at a Greyhound.
Sold. Sold right
Great.
then and there. So how long have you had Roscoe now?
Coming up on 7 months.
And how old is Roscoe?
He turned 6 in November.
And he came off the track?
Yes.
And what was his story on the track? He was how old when he came off the track?
They said he was on the track for 5 years, and that's really
That is a long time, yeah. So he was
So
on
he
the
must
track.
have been good.
So he was on the track for 5 years, and had you not adopted him or a rescue organization taken Roscoe years ago, Roscoe automatically would have been put to sleep. That's the end of his career, 5 years.
That's correct.
And that's why it's so important that people out there understand the concept and the need to support all of the rescues for out there, not just Greyhound, but all rescues. But a group like this, Verde Valley, Greyhound Rescues of Verde Valley, these are small groups, and every minute they have, every dollar they have goes into rescuing more and more dogs. So I'm going to put up their address on the web a little bit later so you guys can make some donations to them as well. Now, you told me an interesting story. You got him, he was 5 years old, and you sent him to jail.
Right.
What was that all about? Not a bad jail. Well, a bad jail, but a good experience.
Because when they come off the track, they don't know anything.
Yeah, they have
They
no
know
experience.
crate, eat, sleep, and
And
run
they don't
after.
really know how to walk on a leash.
So when we saw him on the internet, the internet person said that he's available for the prison program. It's like $135 for 10 weeks, and he gets 24-hour training with a prison. And it's good for the prisoners too because they
Absolutely.
learn how to take
Exactly.
care of dogs, nutrition, cleaning, so they have something to do when they get out. We got him out 10 weeks later. We got him, and
Well, you
He's
know,
great.
Roscoe also is very intelligent. He has a very large vocabulary, and we began.
Exactly how many words, how many books does he read a week?
I think he knows at least 500 words.
There's no doubt in my mind. You know, when you guys, we talked earlier, you're from New York, you used to listen to me a lot in New York on WOR. And the bottom line is I've been talking about that for years, how smart our dogs are, to the point where people, as you know, sometimes call in and want to have the men in the white coats waiting for me when they get off the air. But I'm a firm believer in conversing with your dogs. I literally, in fact, on the website at thepetshow.com right now, I think the survey question is, do you have conversations with your pet? But I do. I talk politics, I talk religion. First of all, they're great listeners, and generally they agree. You know.
well, I got from you when we're away. We call up on the telephone.
There you go. So now you've had the dog for how long?
7 months, coming up on 7.
7 months, and personality-wise, super.
He's calm, balanced, gentle, and loving.
And besides the prison program, what do you put that towards? Do you think it's your exposure to other dogs and just letting him know that there's love in the world?
I love and kiss this dog every day.
Hugs and kisses, that's what it's all about.
Hugs and kisses, and he knows that he's treated with respect. And we give him enough exercise so that he can release his energy.
Okay, so
I think
here's the
that's
big
very
question for you,
important.
Debbie. Most people I know, oh my Greyhound people, how many people have more than one dog? Yeah, that's all those hands go up. One thing I've noticed over the years is Greyhounds are kind of like potato chips. You can't have just one. We're going to show you a bunch later that belong to one person. Do you think in the future perhaps there's a second Greyhound?
Well, my car only fits one. He's
Well,
a
you
big
know,
dog.
there's dealers in the area.
I tell you, every time I get around a fostered greyhound or a greyhound that's just come off the track, I really would like to adopt him. So I can't close
You're not closing
the
the door. So what would you say? What would you say to all of the people that are watching right now? What would your plea to them be for helping out not only Greyhound Rescue, but perhaps considering Greyhound themselves?
Well, if you're thinking about a wonderful pet, don't forget the greyhound. I mean, they're out here and we need to help them. It's very, very important.
Great dogs. We're going to talk more to some more Greyhound owners in just a little bit, and we'll be right back. Well, here I am with Verde and her dog Sunny. Velde, first of all, I got to tell you, I just love the name Sunny. And you said to me earlier that you've been fostering Greyhounds for a while, and Sunny, for some reason, couldn't find a home. What would the possible reason that Sunny could not find a home? What could possibly...
Well, she's kind of shy and would just, when she was in the pen where they were showing dogs, she'd be the one to go off in the corner and lay down and watch people, we think, because she's a really good dog.
I can see, though, she's not so shy anymore.
No, she's not.
She's pretty good right now. Maybe
Yeah.
it was the cage that made her a little shy. Now, you said you had fostered a bunch of dogs. How difficult is that? Because, you know, we're talking to all these Greyhound people and wonderful people, and there's like so many thousands of Greyhounds. Is it difficult to foster because sooner or later you have to say goodbye? Is that difficult, or is the reward worth the difficulty?
I think the reward is worth it, and my husband and I just got a mindset, you know, that we just are teaching them, you know, because when you get them, they don't know anything.
I was talking about, they don't even know what a tea kettle sounds like.
Exactly. So the challenge of socializing them and telling them how nice they are, and you know they get affectionate right away.
Just talking to them.
Exactly.
And so it doesn't take long to, as a foster mom, it doesn't take long for them to come around.
No, it doesn't.
And you've had Sunny how long now?
We've had her a year December.
Are you still doing fostering at this point?
Not right now.
But occasionally you may be starting up again.
Yeah.
So after all the years of fostering, you finally found your Sunny,
Yes.
and she turned out to be quite the dog.
She's really good. She loves to hike, and my husband does too. So
Perfect combination.
yes. She thinks she belongs to us.
Well, she does. Oh, you belong to her. I think that's it. Thank you, Velda. I appreciate that. Thank you, Sunny. Thank you, Sunny. I'm here with Janice, surrounded by a bunch of Greyhounds. Janice, first of all, these are all your dogs.
Yes.
How did you
yes.
wind up with all these Greyhounds? And they're all dogs that would have been killed.
Yes.
How did
every
you wind
one
up
of
with all
them.
these Greyhounds?
Well, my mother started with one, and it was the perfect dog. And so then my husband met Monica at the Greyhounds Verde Valley, and he said, "We'll take any black ones you get." They kept getting black ones, so.
I'm noticing that, and we were talking about that earlier, but it's much more difficult to find a home. Even for mixed breed dogs or pedigree dogs, it's much more difficult to find a home for black dogs. People associate black with aggression. Black cats are almost impossible to find homes for. Yet every one of these dogs, my face is soaking wet from being licked by these aggressive black Greyhounds. So you started with one, and you just kept adding and adding and adding. What are some of the challenges, though? You know, we talked earlier with some people that have Greyhounds, and the challenges of the fact that these dogs have never been socialized with people. They've never seen things that the normal dog would see. They've never been around things that the normal dog would be around.
Right.
Do you find that kind of a challenge when you first get them?
I just think it's fun. I tell you, to teach a Greyhound to walk upstairs is hysterically funny.
Especially with the open back steps.
Oh yeah, you know, and all the things that they learn. But it's interesting, they aren't really pack oriented like a normal dog usually is.
Can I tell you something? Can I tell you something? Let's talk about this.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of the pack theory, okay? Let me explain why. I've been working with animals for a lot of years. Dogs have been domesticated since we've been walking upright, okay? And the whole concept of a pack is that there's a leader, all right? And in a typical family, if the husband is the leader, then the dog's got to challenge someone, the wife or the kids. My feeling is, well, you know, negotiate. There doesn't have to be a leader.
Right.
Why does there have to be a leader? And that's what you see here. There's,
right.
You know, well, maybe for an hour, this one will be in charge.
Yeah,
for a half hour, that one will be in charge.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So in other words, you find it no more difficult living with, how many do you have? I never asked that
I
question.
have 6 Greyhounds in a lab rescue. So.
I saw there was a Greyhound here with a
It's
bigger
a really
head.
big guy here.
So you have all these Greyhounds, and do people, when they get to know them, do you find it's easy to convince people that perhaps a Greyhound might be the right pet for them? Or are they still a little kind of?
I think it's the conception that they have to get a lot of exercise. I mean, you'll say my yard's not very big, they're sprinters. They run like crazy for about 5 minutes, and then they just kind of lay down and collapse.
And what about their aggressive behavior?
Yeah, there you go. That's aggressive.
I always get that from people. Oh, those big greyhounds, they're so
They're
aggressive.
big babies.
And you have a large piece of property here, so you have these dogs. And I was saying earlier that when I was doing a lot of work in New York and back on the East Coast, and even in LA, there's a lot of greyhound rescues also, that people are still under the misconception that you need this big piece of property. And I tell people, you don't. Certain breeds, yes, you have a Scottish Deerhound maybe a little bit more. Or an Irish Wolfhound, or an Irish Setter, you better buy a town. But with greyhounds, they're sprinters, give them a few minutes at a time, a few times a day, and the only thing that you have to be concerned about, if you have a backyard, you're going to have a track.
Right.
You're going to have a track.
They run in a circle.
They run in a circle, and especially some of the ones that come from different countries, they run the opposite, like the toilet bowl going the opposite way. So you have all these dogs, and you seem like such a happy person. Do you attribute your happiness to some of these guys?
Oh yeah.
Are you the one?
You laugh all the time. Yep. She's my swimmer.
She was just swimming in the
Yeah,
pool.
she's
Let's
a
walk
swimmer.
around and talk about some of these dogs individually. Hey guys, come on guys. Oh, you come on. So these are all yours?
Yes.
Including the lab.
Here he comes. He's a little slower than they
And
are.
yet they adapted right to you as well?
And he to them.
All right, now I'm putting you on a spot here.
Okay.
I want their names.
Oh, that's easy. They're color coded. This is Cammy,
That's Cammy.
Anna Banana.
Anna Banana. Hi, Anna Banana.
This is Midnight, our new boy. This is Maggie May. And let's see, Sydney is the one with the curly tail.
That's Sydney.
Sydney. And they're wandering away.
They're all
Ebony Ann, Nick, and Cheyenne Mist is the one in the gold collar.
So the only way you can call them is all at one time.
Oh no, if I see the collar color, I
You
got it.
just nail it right. You nail it right away.
Yeah.
What a great. And I noticed you have the swimming pool for them. I have one in my backyard for
Yeah.
my dogs.
Oh,
They
yeah.
absolutely love it. This is great. You know what we're gonna do? I want to get a shot of all these greyhounds together, because what I want to do is I want to show the world once and for all what amazing dogs they are, and the fact that there are over 20,000 killed over a year just drives me crazy, and there's no reason for it. So stay tuned. When we come back, I'm going to get all the greyhounds together. We're going to get a great picture of all the greyhounds, and I'm going to sum up a lot of my thoughts about what I think about greyhound racing and greyhound abuse. We'll talk about that when we come back. Some final thoughts on greyhound and greyhound racing. As you can probably tell, I'm not a big fan of greyhound racing and really think that eventually it should disappear altogether. But the important part right now is groups like Greyhounds of the Verde Valley and other groups around the nation are doing whatever they can to get as many dogs that normally would have been killed saved. All of these dogs that you're looking at today, every single one of these, which is an excellent, fabulous pet, would have not been here if it were not for rescue groups like the group we're talking to today. You know, a lot of people don't understand the difference between physical abuse and psychological abuse. As an animal behaviorist, you know, physical abuse is really bad, psychological abuse is just as bad as far as I'm concerned. And a lot of these dogs suffer from tremendous psychological abuse. And the psychological abuse they suffer from is simply because they've never had the opportunity to really be socialized around people. Yet, given a little bit of a hug, a little bit of a kiss, and a lot of time, look how these dogs all came around. Literally, folks, my face is soaking wet from playing with these dogs. So here's my recommendation. If you're thinking about adopting a dog, whatever type of dog it is, there are great organizations all around the country. If you want a Schnauzer, there are Schnauzer rescues. If you want a German Shepherd, like my dog, you can get them from German Shepherd Rescue. There are literally lots of rescues around. However, you need to understand that when it comes to this breed, the Greyhound, they're in dire straits only because the numbers are out there. And how many, there was just a recent story of like 30 or 40 Greyhounds being found shot to death in the South. So we need to stop that. And the only way to stop that is to educate yourselves and donate and help out. If you can foster dogs, if you can make a donation, we're going to put Greyhounds of the Verde Valley's number up, their website up. If you can help a group like this, and it's not one of those organizations where the money goes into a bank account, folks. This is an organization where the dollars and cents go directly into making sure that every single dog here has a good, healthy, long life. Thinking about the perfect dog for your home, you're a two-income family, you don't want to start out with a puppy, perhaps a Greyhound is the perfect, right on cue. Perhaps a Greyhound is the perfect dog for you. Your backyard may look a little funny with a Flintstone pool, but I promise you, it'll be the greatest thing you ever did for yourself and for these wonderful dogs.